104.7 The Cave, KKLH, Marshfield, Springfield, a proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Now, it's time for Ned Talk.
It is Easter Sunday, and here we are talking about sports after 3 days of drinking. Ned Reynolds rose from his bed and is in the studio with me this morning. Ned, how are you?
And the rock was rolled away, and he emerged out of a deep slumber. Great, thank you. Beautiful day in the Ozarks, beautiful Easter Sunday, and I hope everybody is enjoying the peace and relaxation.
It is Ned Talk, your local live sports talk show. I'm Joe Westen, Ned Reynolds. Josh Roberts with us. Josh, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's like Ned said, the weather's nice outside. I've got a ham in the oven that's slow cooking. It's going to be ready in a couple of hours. I'm excited.
Any pineapples?
No pineapples.
No pineapples.
No pineapples on that ham.
Josh was explaining to Ned the significance of pineapples
Come on,
these
guys,
days.
Don't go so far.
So I won't get into it. I'm just telling you
If
what
you
was
know,
happening.
you know.
If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. All right, here we are. The Masters going on this weekend. But first, let's jump back and talk about Friday. We finally got something right with the NCAA tournament because I think almost everybody here picked UConn to win Monday night. Mm-hmm. And it really wasn't much of a game.
No, and UConn was clearly the superior team. They were bigger, much bigger than San Diego State up front, and that really made the big difference. The Sudoku kid was arguably the top player in the tournament. He won the MVP award. He's a big kid, and he is very strong. But UConn had a very nice team, and many of them come back next year. They also are coached by a Hurley. It's Dan Hurley, who is one of the famed East Coast Hurley family. Their basketball acumen is far above everybody else. So it was a deserving win. They were the best team.
What'd you think overall? What's your grade for the tournament this year?
This tournament was it depends on what your whole perspective is in the tournament. If you're looking for drama and surprises, it got an A+. Mm-hmm. If you were looking for quality of play, probably an A- somewhere around there because there was some pretty ragged play. And if you're looking for surprises, again, it gets an A+ because a number 1 seed goes down again to a number 16. And you're going to see that a little bit more often now, maybe not every year, but number 1 seed playing 16 is not the vast chasm that it was in earlier years. And that's because of the talent level in college basketball.
You know, a lot of talk about college basketball this year, a lot of talk about the tournament, especially after not – let me go back and start that again. Let me just say a lot of talk about the tournament, especially after not a lot of talk about college basketball going into the tournament. And, Josh, you're a guy that's not a rabid follower of college basketball, but you were into the tournament.
Oh, yeah, I was. I was excited about it. You know, doing this show has educated me enough to know that I wanted to watch more of the tournament than I did the regular season. It's kind of tough for me to I mean, I'm an Alabama fan, but I don't necessarily root for Alabama or follow them during the regular season in basketball. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this tournament. And I think what you're saying, Ned, is absolutely true. For the next few years with the transfer portal and all of that stuff, we're going to see things spread out more. Mm-hmm. And so these second-tier players that are good enough to be starters but maybe not good enough to be a starter at a top-tier school are going to move to a school where they are a starter, and they're going to get to shine in these tournaments. And so I think the talent level is going to continue to spread a little bit for the next few years before it reaches a balance. So that's exciting for somebody like me who I love to see upsets. I love to see the Cinderellas make their move. And I was rooting for San Diego State in the championship game. But UConn is a great program, and I thought they had won a national championship before.
Well, they have.
Okay.
They have. They've won
okay.
several.
This was the Hurley's his first one.
Dan Hurley, yeah.
Dan Hurley's
now,
first one.
His brother, the much more renowned Bobby Hurley, is the coach at Arizona State, and and they were very much in the competition, but fell a little bit on the short side. But over and above all of that, though, they're all good programs. Every team in college basketball, and case in point is Princeton. Here's an Ivy League team that flies under the radar. Yeah. Well, they go out and they take Missouri apart just completely.
Sure.
I think it was Arizona that they took apart in the first game. I've forgotten. But regardless of that, here's an Ivy League school that doesn't give athletic scholarships. They do give grants. But over and above that, these are the the higher IQ kids, they go out there and they win the game. The talent level is still there.
Well, yeah. Go ahead. I was just going to say, when you look at San Diego State, I mean, nobody would have picked them to make it to the final game.
Well,
nobody would have picked them to beat Alabama.
Josh, they had a good team all year long.
Oh, yeah.
And a nationally ranked team, but not at that level. Alabama was, number one.
Sure.
And you have a situation in which here comes a team that nobody gives a chance to because you've looked at those ratings, but you haven't looked at the individual matchups.
Yeah, right.
And there's a big difference there when you take these teams and compare talent level on talent level. It is a different story.
When you looked at the the difference in the record between a 1 and an 8 wasn't that much different.
No.
27-3 and 26-4. You're seeing a lot of really good basketball, a lot of really good talent, a lot of parity.
Look at Florida Atlantic.
Yeah.
Nobody's even heard of them, and they were 34-3 at one time in the year before they finally got beat. But here's a team that's, again, every bit as good as anybody else. Mm-hmm. They can still play and play very well.
Well, I think one of the big differences between college football and college basketball is in college basketball, one player can make a difference. And I think guys with the transfer portal see that. They go, I can go to a smaller school. Maybe they ride on my back for a little bit, or I take them on my back and I carry them. And people start to pay attention to me, where I'd be lost in a program where there's 3 or 4 guys that are like me playing together.
I think the most interesting of the transfer portal shifts that I saw happened last week. Caleb Love, who was an outstanding freshman player at North Carolina and a very high recruit. He played his high school basketball at CBC in St. Louis.
Oh, wow.
And here comes Hubert Davis at North Carolina, recruits him out of there. You're going to the Tar Heels, one of the blue bloods of college basketball. Played there 1 year, went in the transfer portal. Well, you put the conspiratorial minds together. He's going back to Mizzou. Ended up at Michigan, so he's going to play for the Wolverines.
Well, what you're saying, Joe, the basketball, there are 5 players on each side. So you do have an opportunity if you have a standout player that can make a huge difference in a game. And you see it all the time. You see these guys rise to the occasion. You see in the NBA, you see 1 or 2 star players that can really carry a team deep into the playoffs or maybe to the finals. That is a big difference between football and basketball. Fewer players on the court versus 11 on the field. And so when you have these guys that are standouts, they get to show themselves. And I love it. I mean, I think it's great when you see a guy who would have been a second stringer at North Carolina, and now he's going to be a star at Michigan probably, and he'll make his name.
You see it more in women's basketball than you would in men, and case in point is Iowa with their star player, Caitlin Clark.
Oh, yeah.
She was there. Well, the center was a very good player, but it was her surrounded by her auxiliary group, let's put it that way.
Sure.
That's not meant as an insult in any way. But who do they play? LSU beat South Carolina.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They spent themselves physically in that one. Play LSU, a fine team, very well balanced. And what happens? Hey, the team wins as opposed to the player.
Right.
You're listening to Ned Talk, your local live sports talk show. We're talking about the Final Four and college basketball championships. Let's talk about that for just a minute because there's been this garbage, I would say. Ned waved his hand afterwards. This whole thing about the White House and Jill Biden inviting both schools to the White House, and the LSU team was like, I guess the leader on that team said, no, we don't want to come because you've invited this other school and that lost, and what? Come on. This is just garbage, right?
Well, as it turns out, though, Iowa said, no, we're not going. We don't deserve to go. We're a second-place team. And then Mrs. Biden backtracked on what she said and alleged that maybe it was misquoted and all that sort of thing. But no, LSU is going to go.
Well, good. I mean, it's kind of silly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all just silliness, I think. I mean, I think it was if you said it, you said it. And if you were doing it as a nice gesture because it's a nice gesture, then do it. But whatever.
Well, Joe, I think Mrs. Biden doesn't have a clue as to what's going on with athletics, excuse me, And she's probably one of these individuals, oh, we have got to give a runner-up trophy, too. No, you don't either. That's never happened before. The champion team has always been invited. Now, some of them have declined the invitation.
Yeah.
But in this case, because it was – and the game wasn't competitive. It was 105 to 85 or 103 to 85 or whatever the final score was. It was all LSU. But then to invite Iowa because they have the star player, no, that's just not protocol.
Well, it's just garbage, all of it. It's just fuel for fodder for people to talk about things like that.
At the end of the game, the center for LSU was pointing at her ring finger towards the Caitlin Clark, and that created a controversy too. But then Caitlin Clark, to her credit, said she has every right to do that. They beat us.
They did beat them, and don't sell her short because she did her.
Oh yeah,
share
that was the thing.
Crowd. She's waving at them. Come on, give us the applause and all that. She's no shining little. I'm sorry, not shining, but no wilting little wallflower.
No.
She was controversial during the tournament. There was a lot of teams that didn't like her, the way that she played and the way that she tried to pump up the crowd and things like that.
But there is one thing she is, and that's a damn good player.
That's right. She's a good basketball player, and ultimately, that's part of it. It's got to be the bottom line. I mean, she's trying to will her team into a championship. You do what you can. You do that. I don't think there's any crime in that. I think as long as you don't cross the line.
I
with
think
certain
maybe
things.
if they had a couple of extra days to rest, that would have been a closer game.
Closer.
I think LSU probably still would have won just because they had overall their pieces played better. But I agree with you. It's such a war of attrition, and I think Caitlin Clark was tired in that last game.
And if Iowa were to play South Carolina again, also over a series of games, it would be a different story.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the other big sporting event that's going on right now, and that, of course, is the Masters, the big story. This morning, Tiger Woods has withdrawn. I saw the news clips of him walking in the rain yesterday, and it didn't look good. I was in pain watching him.
There's no question about it. He has all the metal in the one leg. I think it's his left, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless of that, you're playing in cold weather, damp weather, you're going to hurt. And he knew it. He knew this was going to be a possibility. But keep in mind now, he hadn't played very well in the first round when it was 80 degrees out there. He was still 2 over par for that one. And comes back and tries to play in the second round, and his score was starting to skyrocket. He did make the cut. Interestingly enough, on the last 2 holes, the cut suddenly went from 2 over par to 3 over par. Oh, Tiger's in! Wonderful. Well, he exploded when they played that second round because he was over par on every single hole. He was 9 over when he withdrew, and he did the right thing. In fact, one of the announcers during the course of yesterday's event was praising Tiger as he limped along in the rain, and it's coming down in torrents, and it's cold, and they're holding the umbrellas. And the announcer said something to the effect that, if that were you or I out there, wouldn't we have said, hey, the heck with this, let's go home? Not Tiger, he's out there. Well, he was for another couple hours.
Right.
And it was sayonara.
Are you amazed at how much Tiger Woods still dominates a sport that he's not a central figure to as far as at the competition level?
Yes and no. Yes, from the standpoint that the media's attitude has changed. I'm old enough that I can do this, making the comparison to when Arnold Palmer went into his less than competitive years. He did not get this kind of coverage, and he had Arnie's Army.
Yeah.
Huge galleries following him. He was the one who, in my opinion, brought golf back from kind of the doldrums into the national limelight with his charisma and with his abilities to play a somewhat, how can I term this, orthodox level of golf, because he was very, very aggressive on the course and played it with such charisma and such strategy that it enlightened the audience. But when he declined, and I was out at KY3 while this happened, he did not get anywhere near the publicity that Woods is. Woods, a different story. He is African-American and one of the very few on the tour, and that does make a big difference in how he is perceived. Number 2, he is a 15-time major winner, and that's very big. He was at one time the most dominant. Now, I got into an argument the other day with an individual who says, is he the greatest of all time? No, there is no such thing. But he is certainly the greatest of his generation, which is spanning the late 1990s into the 2000s. Yeah, there's no question about it. He is there.
He's no Chai Rodriguez by any stretch of imagination. That's not how you said.
Gigi was always so good with that. When he put the ball in the hole and birdie it or whatever, take his hat off and give it the sword.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was so good.
Well, I think people forget that Jack Nicklaus is on the TV screen right now, and that when Jack Nicklaus came on the scene, he was not the favorite. People loved Arnold Palmer, and Jack Nicklaus had this not a great following.
It was Palmer and Nicklaus. They were virtually the same time, not literally. Palmer was a couple of years before, but when they got together, and they paired up together, that was a really, really big deal because you had the two arguably best players on the golf tour and the two most renowned. And Nicklaus, of course, far outshone Arnie in terms of his wins. Nicklaus has 18 major victories to him, major event victories, 18 majors. And that says something. Nicklaus is maybe the all-time greatest of golfers in terms of his ability to be consistent and a significant part of what's going on. That takes nothing away from anybody else.
No, I think it's always interesting to have these discussions about who's the greatest. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you, Ned, is that you have to place the person in the time that they played and what was going on in the world, what sort of things, the pressures that they face. I mean, obviously today, the media pressure that a guy like Tiger Woods, it's incomparable to what Jack Nicklaus or Arnold Palmer or even some of the other players that played early on in the career. It's just not the same, but there's other differences that weigh into the whole argument. And I think it's fascinating to have those conversations.
Media coverage is a little bit different now because the media almost roots for the old timers to come back where they didn't in the past.
Right.
But now they want, that storyline of thus and so coming back from the ashes and rising up like a phoenix and taking over again, and it ain't going to happen.
Well, Jack Nicklaus did that. He was one of the guys that they thought he was done, and he came back and he won the Masters, and it was an amazing story. But we've sat here for 5 minutes and we've talked about Tiger Woods, and I don't even know who's leading the Masters right now.
Bruce Koepka.
Okay,
Koepka.
And one of the finest players on the tour right now. If you're not paying attention,
not on the tour.
Oh, that's right.
He's on the Live.
He's on the Live Tour. Uh-oh.
And this is I got to reading a story today. This could be the Masters' worst nightmare to have this guy win the thing. And it's their committee. It's not a PGA event. It's a Masters event, and the Masters committee is the one who invites these people, and they decided to bring in the Live Tour. Brought 18 Live golfers, Phil Mickelson being one of them. And here's Koepka, and he is leading by, the last I saw, 2 strokes going into the final round, and I think they will get final round in today. It looks like there's no rain in the offing down in Augusta.
Let me ask you this, because when we were doing the show 6 months ago and everybody was leaving the tour to join the Live Tour, and wow, this is going to be a big deal, I've heard diddly squat about Live since then.
Well, the PGA was affected by it in a lot of respects and responded to it in a positive way by raising the purses of a number of tournaments, not all of them, but with a significant number to allow many of these golfers to stay there. There is a big difference between the two of them. Number one is the Live Tour doesn't play anywhere near the number of events that the PGA does. PGA has tournaments virtually every week. Live Tournament does not. It has a tournament here, tournament there, several in the United States, some in Europe, some in the Far East. It's just a different concept. But the fact is that these guys who joined the Live Tour are guaranteed their money plus their winnings. It's a rather interesting concept, and they're 54 hole events, and they are shotgun starts. It's altogether different from what the PGA does, and I think the general public is having trouble acclimating themselves to that kind of a format. They're also, they did get a national TV contract with the CW.
Oh.
Let me tell you, the CW is not associated with athletics in any way. It's
No.
with young people's television.
Yeah, that's teen soap opera drama.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't remember coming across any live events when I've been watching TV to try to find sports.
They were streamed prior to
Oh,
this, but
streamed.
now they
okay.
do have the CW for a
Interesting.
selected number of events, and I don't think that's
So,
going to get them any audience at
What
all.
you're saying to me, Ned, is that the live actually has less television coverage than the XFL.
Oh, heavens,
Yes.
yes. Much less.
I guess that says it all. When we come back, we'll talk a little baseball, and I want to talk to Ned about this new pickup the Chiefs made.
You're listening to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, part of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network. Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, a proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
Happy Easter, everyone. We're here on this Ned Talk. The ham is waiting on the table, I believe, for all of us. But we are dedicated to what we do, so we're here talking sports. And I said to Ned, let's talk about this new Chiefs free agent they signed. He said, I don't know who this person is. So we're going to learn together. This is Richie James. He was signed by the Chiefs, wide receiver for the Giants, the second wide receiver that they picked up from the Giants in the last 6 months. They got Tony at the end of the year. This kid, Middle Tennessee State, 57 receptions last year, 569 yards, 4 touchdowns, 10-yard average. What I saw when I looked at the Bleacher Report did a reel on him, and what I saw was he was used in Middle Tennessee State, much like the Kansas City Chiefs used, and then the name has just gone out of my head.
Pacheco?
Not Pacheco, but
Tyreek Hill.
with Tyreek Hill. Yeah, they used him with a lot of jet sweeps, a lot of reverses, a lot of sort of gadget plays.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that maybe is the appeal for somebody like this to come to Kansas City.
Kansas City's whole attack on offense is based on speed and ability. That's why they got Kadarius Toney. The problem with Toney is that while he has the speed and the athletic ability, he also is very injury prone. Had the hamstring problems and had them with the Chiefs as well as the New York Giants. With Richie James, judging from his background here, and he is a Middle Tennessee State product, he does have the speed. I'm interested in the fact that they let him go as a free agent. His coach, of course, was DeAndre Smith. And DeAndre Smith was in charge of running backs and quarterbacks with the New York Giants last year. DeAndre Smith, folks, is one of the all-time greats ever to play here at Missouri State. Well, he is no longer with the New York Giants. He left them at the end of the season and joined the staff of the Indianapolis Colts. He and the Colts' new coach, who came over from the Philadelphia Eagles, have a pretty good relationship. So DeAndre went there. So this guy, James, doesn't have the coach who taught him a lot about this. So the Giants, I think, were probably willing. Giants may be ready to change their whole outlook on things. I'm guessing this, and the Chiefs aren't. The Chiefs are straight-ahead speed. This kid has it. He can be a backup to Toney. He could maybe take the place of some of the other individuals who might not be with the team next year. When they have the draft coming up at the end of this month up in Kansas City, you may see an altogether change, just change in the overall structure of their roster, depending on the numbers of people who they get. And the Chiefs have 11 picks in this draft, so they could load up pretty well and maybe afford the luxury of being able to unload some individuals and reduce their salary cap.
You have the best quarterback in football. It's not Joe Burrow, Cincinnati. Are you listening? It's not Joe Burrow. You have the best quarterback in football. You have the best tight end, perhaps the best tight end in the history of the game, playing for your team. You have a phenomenal coach that has 2 Super Bowl rings to his credit now. Do you think a cast of characters is what they need to surround them right now? Is that all that they need to win?
Who knows?
Yep.
You don't know. You can sit here and speculate and use your rah, doing everything right attitude. Hey, gang, it's pro football. There are 31 other teams. Anything can happen. The injury factor, you've got to take that into consideration, how that's going to be. The Chiefs were remarkably injury-free last year. That certainly helped.
That was a big factor.
And these teams, it's kind of like college basketball in a way. The parity level is so good, and the individuals coming into the NFL are so adept at what they do that anything can happen.
I was thinking about this yesterday. How hard it is for teams to repeat, and I think that's what makes what New England did so amazing, because they just consistently were so good every year. And maybe that's the motto, that's the kind of formula that the Chiefs are taking with this, because they had Tom Brady. They had a good to very good defense. They have a very good offensive line. And then the rest of the team was just plug-in players that sometimes were castaways from other teams that you go, well, why did that person end up with New England? And all of a sudden they're a star, they're a hero. And I think maybe that's the approach the Chiefs are taking here.
One major factor.
Okay.
And you are right in what you say. And it's plug-in players here except for one. And that team, that New England Patriots dynasty, had the one, leader, Tom Brady. The Chiefs have that one, Patrick Mahomes. Therein lies the total catalyst, and when you can get an individual who can lead a team in every aspect of the game, you've got yourself a pretty doggone good ball club.
I mean, going into the season, Isaiah Pacheco is the running back. I mean, he's the guy.
Yeah.
He's the guy. Other guys have to try to beat him out this year to try to play, and that includes Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And it's amazing to me that the Chiefs are doing this. It's hard to win. It's hard to win 2 Super Bowls like the Chiefs have done. It's really hard. It's hard. It's almost impossible to believe that New England did what they did. Because just the way the league is set up to create parity. There's the salary cap. There's the draft. The way the draft is even done. You have to catch magic in a bottle to be able to repeat or come out as a champion. And that's the Chiefs are trying to establish themselves as a dynasty football team.
Any championship team, whatever the sport might be, will tell you that there's a major factor that's often overlooked, and it isn't overlooked by the teams or the players, and that's luck. You have to have a specific amount of luck. Now, you've got to be a good team, don't get me wrong, but the luck factor in the Chiefs' case, few injuries. They had some, but other teams had catastrophic injuries and weren't able to come back from that. The luck factor falls into this, and in terms of players catching the ball and dropping it and errors and so forth and so on, that all figures into it. And the league is so well balanced and with so many good players that finite little edge really comes into play.
And don't forget about the script.
Now, come on. The script doesn't play in.
Well, I mean, the perfect example of that going into the season was Buffalo. I mean, they were everybody's darling. Everybody thought that the Buffalo would retool. They would learn from their loss to the Chiefs and that they would come back and they would be a better team. And then their quarterback got hurt. He tried to play through it, and he just was not the same quarterback.
And they had the one incident on the field that really they never came back. This is the heart attack, the heart stoppage on the field. Hey, they never recovered. They were not very good. They got to that game. It was against Cincinnati, and Cincinnati in Buffalo absolutely dominated the daylights. That was not the same Buffalo team. Again, another factor.
Yes. Well, you look at the Kansas City, perhaps the season before, I know that we talked about this a little bit, is that, where are we going to get to the end of the season and hear Patrick Mahomes was hurt? I think we all know that he was hurt 2 seasons ago, that he was trying to play through it, but he wasn't the same quarterback that he was because something had happened to his thumb, something had happened to his arm.
And his toe.
And his toe, too. And he just was not the same quarterback. This year, injured towards the end of the season, but he was able to play through it, got it out, get some wins for Kansas City, and they're the Super Bowl champions. Be interesting with the draft coming up, and it is in Kansas City. I think we labored on that for a while, but I do want to point that out. The NFL draft is in our neck of the woods this year, so if you feel like going up there.
Does that mean that we do our Ned Talk here from up there at Union Station? No, it does not.
We should.
I've wanted to. I've told Mike, I said, we should go up there and do it, and he goes, And then I've been more serious about it with him. I said, Mike, let's go up there and do Ned Talk. And he goes, good luck getting Ned to go. That's all that he said to me.
He is right. He's absolutely right. Do you know what a circus that would be up there?
Oh, it'd be amazing.
Oh, Lord, believe me.
Total chaos.
I think we should do a Ned Talk live during the draft.
Yes.
Let's
You
do
guys
Let's do that.
Keep right on talking about it.
When we come back, we'll talk baseball.
You're listening to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, part of the Kansas City Chiefs Radio Network. Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, a proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs Radio Network.
Joe Westen, Ned Reynolds, Josh Roberts, no Alex Scott today or Jake Gillette. Alec at least let us know he wasn't going to be here. Jake said he would be here, and then he didn't show up.
Maybe he'll come in as the giant Easter bunny here to surprise
Yeah,
you.
maybe.
He better bring chocolate.
He's out delivering Easter eggs on a motorcycle this morning. Let's talk baseball. We were sitting here discussing one of the anomalies of the game. Happened, I guess, Saturday or Friday.
I think it was Friday that it happened.
No hit. Team got no hit, but they won the game 7-5.
Mm-hmm. But they did it with no hits. 7 runs on no hits. The Chattanooga Lookouts are AA farm club, and somehow it was just one of those oddities in which the opposing pitcher walked batters, errors were made, batters got hit, plunked, and they got the runs in, and maybe a sacrifice or two thrown in there. But, yeah, it did happen.
That's crazy.
Hugely unusual.
That's one of the beautiful things about baseball is you can have crazy things like that.
Well, it's true. There are always – in fact, we got to talking, Scott Bales and I did not too long ago on one of the telecasts, that there's almost every game something you've never seen before. Now, that's not literally the case.
Right.
In many of them, we were doing a game one year, and I'm going to guess about 12 or 13 years ago, on – now this is the key – on Labor Day afternoon, the final game of the regular season. Beautiful Monday afternoon, and we're televising away. And Scott always said that when you have the final game of the year, you want out. It's time to go home or time to go off to something else. So he said, Reynolds, this is going to be the fastest game of the year. So there comes a point where they're playing the Little Rock team, the Arkansas Travelers, and late in the game, there's a runner on first and second, I think it was, and 1 out. And the batter hits the ball into the gap in left center field, bounces off the wall. Runner on second hesitates because he thought the outfielder might catch it. All right, hesitated, maybe stumbled coming around third. But anyway, comes in, here comes the throw, he's out, and the following runner tries to come in, and he's out. A tandem double play that you never ever see. We sent that off to ESPN, and they said, here's what can happen.
Yeah.
Well, just one of those amazing things about it. Sports anymore is so meta statistic that we just, love to go through all these things and look and see how everything that's happened. Or most of the time when you look at these two, you just go, oh, well, there's just 5 guys on the list, 4 of them you've never heard of before in your life that do these things. Cardinals are off to a pretty decent start this year. They blanked Milwaukee yesterday.
Yeah, had a 6-0 win over the Brewers, but they're 3-5, and they lost all 3 games to the Atlanta Braves, who were pretty good. But by the same token, though, the Cardinals, and they did get a great pitching performance last night from the Montgomery kid, the former Yankee. He was in there, but their pitching staff really hasn't come through. Of course, Wainwright is not there; he's still injured, so they're having to patch in. But Michaelis hasn't been dominant. And the pitcher who is throwing today, Jake Woodford, who was down with the Springfield Cardinals recently, is going to pitch today and probably hasn't been all that good either. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. The one thing the Cardinals do have going for them is a very good offensive attack, and they can hit. They did last night, 6-0.
When we were off the air, Ned and I were debating. We were talking about players who've hit 4 home runs in a game, and we couldn't remember the name of the Cardinal player who did it. It was hard-hitting Mark Whitten.
Mark Whitten. There you go.
That name in itself.
And it was the second game of a doubleheader against the Cincinnati Reds. I can remember listening to Jack Buck calling it. And he not only hit 4 homers, he had, I think, 12 RBIs in the game.
Yeah, 12 RBIs, 2 was the score. He had 16 total bases, and he hit 105 home runs on his career, 4 of them in one day.
And that
Hard-hitting
was
Whitten.
at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati, and it was a second game, doubleheader. I can remember it. This is odd. I can't remember what I had for breakfast, which was nothing. But
Right.
But I can remember driving home. I lived in Ozark at the time from KY3. We finished our newscast at 10:35 as always. But driving home and listening to the end of that second game, and Jack Buck saying something to the effect that I can't believe what I am seeing here. We're up, would have been about maybe 12-2, and Whitten has 3 homers and he hits a 4th one out of there. 15-2 was the final, and the 12 RBIs in one game ties the major league record.
Yeah, that's the most on the list of anybody who hit 4 home runs in a game. Looking through the list, only one Yankee, Lou Gehrig, did it, 1932. And again, most of the names on this list are not household names. Bob Horner, Mike Schmidt, Willie Mays.
Wait a minute. Bob Horner, number 1 draft choice of the Atlanta Braves.
He's not a household name. Mike Schmidt, Willie Mays.
And Horner also played for the Cardinals.
Everybody knows Mike Horner because of the early days of WTBS.
Yes.
That's exactly right. Had the wild haircut,
Yeah.
Big blonde,
Kind of
flowing
chief,
locks.
let's stop here. We do this. I had a friend who took me to my very first baseball game. We went to the playoffs, Cardinals and the Braves.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Bob Horner's playing third base for the Braves. And one of the Cardinals hits a pop fly that's over by the third base box. And this is old Busch Stadium with the worn out carpet. It was hard to see the ball.
Bush 2.
Bush, yeah. It was hard to see the ball go across the carpet. It was so worn out because the ball's white and the carpet was this white green. Anyway, pop fly over by the third base side. Bob Horner goes over. In the front rows, Ted Turner, owner of the Atlanta Braves. And he stands up to catch the pop fly, the foul ball, and he pushes Bob Horner, his own player, away so that he can catch that foul ball. I remember that distinctly.
And when he caught it, did he give it to Jane Fonda, who was sitting next to him?
I don't remember. She was sitting next to him.
That is hilarious.
But it was just that was Ted Turner's mindset.
Yeah.
That's
mine.
That's mine.
I own that ball.
So we have an undefeated team in Major League Baseball, the Tampa Bay Rays. But it's hard to tell if they're good or if they're just playing really bad baseball teams because they're playing bad baseball teams too.
Well, they're good. Don't sell them short. This is a team this is one of the great stories in baseball because they're a low budget team that makes it into the playoffs not literally, but almost every year. And they are good. They have a very good baseball acumen to their ownership. No, they don't spend a lot of money because they don't have it. In fact, one of the big knocks against the Rays is they need to get a new stadium, and they will. I think the process is now going on to where they're going to construct something new. But the one they're in right now is just not good. It's covered. It's indoors. But
it's the toilet. That's what I like to call it.
It's not very good at all. And it only seats about 30, 31, 32,000, somewhere around there. But the team itself, boy, they have the momentum going for them in terms of how they play the game, the players they draft, the players they trade for. Everybody gets in there and does a great job. It's a very good program.
13 wins to start a season is the record. I think 2 teams have done that.
Brooklyn Dodgers did it once. I remember very well. When they
say that Thursday could be the day that they tie it. I don't think they'll make it. They're a good baseball team. They have played some really bad teams to start the season. Washington, Oakland, I forget what else. Any surprises early on for you, Ned?
No, not really. I think things are probably going on pretty well. Philadelphia, which was a playoff team last year, was 1-6 there for a short time. Now they've won a couple of games. Again, it's all the momentum that you get into, and in every professional sport in which there are a long number of games, like 162 in baseball and NBA and hockey, every team is going to go through valleys and peaks. You hear about that. It's not just an old wives' tale. You have peaks and valleys. The good teams have lesser numbers than the other, but they all go through that. I think the Cardinals have been in a bit of a valley to start things out. I think they're a better team. I think the Royals are a better team. And what have they done? They played their first 7 games. Now, keep in mind, this is a Royals team in spring training that was great. Hit the ball all over the lot.
Yeah.
Fool's gold. They do that every single year and then fall on their derrieres to start out. Very same thing this year. They have a great spring, go to Kansas City for the first 7 games and lose 6 of them. They are 1-6 going on the road. And where are they going on the road? San Francisco. And what have they done out there? Won their first 2 games.
Wow.
So there is no telling. Kansas City's got a nice little ball club. Now, are they a consistent championship team? No. They're not there yet, but they will be if they keep building. They have great young talent, but that's the worst thing that could happen to a young team is to get off to that slow start. However, they have a chance to rally. Same with the Cardinals. It's a much more veteran team. Goldschmidt and Arenado, they're not kids, but, hey, they're still at the prime of their career. And Wainwright in there. The one thing the Cardinals don't have that bothers me just a little bit, Yachty. He is not there. Yadier Molina was a leader on that ball club, and he's the club's boss, so to speak. They don't have that. Is Wilson Contreras that type of individual? Don't know. He hasn't been there long enough. Do they have another leader? Yeah, Arenado is supposed to be that clubhouse leader. But that's what it takes to bring a team together and have them playing. And it's going to be up to them. The onus is on their shoulders, Goldschmidt and Arenado and Wainwright, those people to keep this team of young players together and to have them playing a consistent level and a motivated level. An incident happened last week with Tyler O'Neill rounding third base. His manager, Oliver Marmol, did not think that O'Neill was hustling, and he got thrown out at home plate. And he criticized O'Neill and criticized him in public. I'm not sure that that's the right thing to do. Now, with some players, maybe that motivates them. But with others, they think, what the hell is this guy doing? Criticizing me to the media like that? No. And O'Neill came back and said, well, that's not true. I was hustling. I always hustle. So you maybe are presented with a disparity somewhere along the lines in the clubhouse. I don't know that and not suggesting that, but that is a possibility. Those things happen.
Well, one thing you can guarantee about the Cardinals, at some point during the season, they will get hot, and they will be in contention down the road. We'll wrap up the show and talk about how we're going to spend our Easter Sunday afternoon.
You're listening to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, part of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network. Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, a proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
It is a beautiful day. Some clouds rolling in this afternoon. High in the upper 60s. Great day to get out. I've been saying this all morning. Great day to get out and hunt for Easter eggs. Enjoy your Sunday. Eat some ham, some potato salad,
Yummy.
some deviled eggs.
How come Easter eggs are not eggs as such, though? They're chocolate usually. Not always, but they are chocolate.
My mom she was the hard-boiled egg lady.
Did she paint them?
We did. Yeah, we always painted them. We had the Paz Easter egg kit that we would do at the house.
With that little
done
wire.
that. We did that a long time ago. I think my son was the last to kind of go through that, and then I have a niece that she'll be 3 this year.
Oh, nice.
And I've been wanting her to paint Easter eggs, but my mom at 89 is not much for the Easter egg painting anymore in her kitchen.
No,
No.
not anymore.
Anyway, we've had it on the television, and I've been waiting for some golf, but hasn't been any golf. What time are they supposed to start this thing?
Well, the third round ended just a little while ago.
Oh, okay.
And the third or fourth round, I would think, would have teed off by now. But perhaps, and I'm guessing this, I don't know, but it could be that the television, perhaps awarding of the network, it's CBS, I believe, that has it this year. They may have a mandated starting time that they join it, and it might be after the competition started. I'll look up and see what the Masters leaderboard
Oof. How hard is that on those guys to finish a round and then go out and start another one?
Not. They're pros.
Oh, okay. All right.
They're
all right.
pros. They can
And
get
it's
in.
golf. Come on.
Yeah. They went in, smoked some cigarettes, drank some coffee.
Did a line of Coke, and they're ready to go.
Here. They wouldn't do that. It is, as a matter of fact, no, 1:38, according to this, is when Brooks Koepka tees off, and Rahm is right behind him at 1:33. So, no, they haven't. I'm assuming this is Central Time. But, no, they haven't begun yet.
Well, the golf will start here in a little bit. Are you going to make people watch that when you go to your kid's house this afternoon?
They may or may not. They're Cardinals fans, so they'll probably be watching the Cardinals and Brewers.
The game will be on. What about you, Josh?
Well, I want to watch baseball. I have to make a comment, though. I have been actively trying to find baseball games to watch on a regular basis.
It's hard.
It is not easy to find games.
And, Josh, it's going to be a whole lot more difficult once
the Bally's thing, yeah.
Bally's, how much time do we have to get into
Well,
this?
I mean, really, honestly, we have as much time as we want. I do have to be at lunch at 1:30, though.
No, the Bally's situation is interesting. They've declared bankruptcy. But the way they have their situation controlled, not every team gets the remuneration from Bally's at the same time. It's different on the calendar scale. That's a case in point is the Brewers, and I've forgotten the other team. Two of them were to have paid in the month of April. They're not going to get it. Bingo, pull the plug. Now, the Cardinals are owed $60 million. $60 million for this season. They're obviously not going to get that. They may not get anything. When that happens, it's a Cardinals' decision, along with Major League Baseball. Do you abandon ship and then go to streaming, which is the way it's going to work out?
Okay.
Don't you think some local networks will be maybe wanting to jump on to carry some of these games?
I hope so.
I would think so, but I don't, in all honesty, Joe, know how that works. I don't know what the negotiations are. I think Major League Baseball is mostly wanting their games on the streaming because I think they have an agreement with a major broadcasting organization in this country that's the way they're going to do it from here on in.
Here's my open letter to Major League Baseball. Dear Major League Baseball, don't make it easier to watch Premier League soccer than it is to watch Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I agree with that. I came home yesterday after doing my show Saturday morning. I was like, 12:30, turn on a baseball game? Nope. It's hard to find a baseball game.
But you can find Premier League soccer.
And I'm paying for the MLB package, too.
3 or 4 games a week, Premier League.
And regardless of what happens, you can count on having to pay for it. You will one way or the other.
Exactly. All right. Ned, enjoy your Easter. Josh, enjoy your Easter. Everybody out there, enjoy your Easter.
You too,
all right?
Joe.
Be safe. We'll see you next Sunday. If you'd like to listen to us as a podcast, download us at 1047thecave.com through the Cave streaming app, or you can listen to us through the Cave smartphone. Thanks to Nick Fury, Brian Tyndall, Mike the Intern, and Corbin Campbell. We'll see you guys next Sunday.